Truth Seekers, welcome to the first episode of School and Life, I Think Weekly Podcast. I am When a Libra Speaks. Baby, just when you think you got a handle on life, it will throw you some curveballs and you better know how to swing or you better know how to duck, if you know what I mean. Welcome to our first episode. And let me just go ahead and say, this is grown folk commentary. So if you have kids in the room, get them out. Let's sit down and have some real discussions about life. Now, as you know, everything is alleged. And in my opinion, anything that is said here is alleged and in my very own opinion. But just a few housekeeping tips since we all gathered here together. Okay, we do focus on the human experience through relationships. There's so much you can learn through relationship with others or just by stepping outside and observing other people's relationships. Okay, we are going to discuss real life lessons that can be internalized from reality TV. Yes, reality TV can teach you some life lessons as well as many of the current events. And last but not least, we don't gossip, but we do pay attention and hold discussions with a purpose. So when I say it's grown folk talk, it's grown folk talk. And tonight on the menu, we're starting up with Love and Marriage Huntsville, and I'm taking it all the way back to season 1. Now they say hindsight is 2020, and whoever said it couldn't have been more accurate and more spot on, because it is something else. It's something powerful and something enlightening going back in 2024 present day and watching season 1, particularly as a woman and learning how to maneuver in this world, learning how to maneuver in relationships, and hopefully one day in a marriage. There are just so many signs and so many red flags that a lot of time we don't pick up on until we step outside of ourselves and learn the lessons that are even meant for other people that can help us as well. That's why I definitely like to observe relationships, because instead of you having to go through all of those trials and tribulations, you may be able to learn from somebody else or learn from someone else's testimony. So I have been a long time viewer of Love and Marriage Huntsville. I would sneak at work at night, hurry up and get my work done, and watch the episodes. And I even turned on a few other of my colleagues, and we will watch and just learning the perspective of married women on these particular situations like infidelity, cheating, lying, managing family, businesses. It just really gives you a chance to be exposed to a different type of wisdom. But particularly tonight, we're going to talk about the hypocrisy of Love and Marriage Huntsville. This show started off as something great and something beautiful, but there have been some actions that have just really turned me off, and it was really like alarming and triggering as a viewer. But going back, I always like to go back and think, and what did I miss, and what if this happens in my own life? And it really made me just see and pay attention to the hypocrisy. And so many people talking about millimeter this and this cast versus that cast. Sometimes you have to rewind it back. So specifically, I want to hone in on the word hypocrisy. I know you guys know what that means. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but I want to set the stage and set the tone for the type of behaviors we can look out for in our own lives, in our own relationships, and just some of the behaviors that we've been seeing on the show. So let's break down the word hypocrisy. Let me change screens here for just a moment. Okay, I'm going to read you the definition. Again, I know you know what the word means, but I just want to make sure you listen to some of these synonyms or character traits of the word hypocrisy, or if you want to say hypocrite, okay, a particular person. So hypocrisy is the act of pretending to be someone or something you are not. Have we seen that on the show? Or to believe something you do not. Have we seen that on the show? It can also refer to advocating for behaviors you do not practice. Let's listen to some examples. Telling someone not to eat candy while eating licorice yourself. Saying you hate cars, but always asking for a ride. Come on, Google. Making your children follow rules you don't follow yourself, i.e., telling your children not to cheat and to be honest, and you cheat. Okay. Is it too early in the show? Making your children follow rules you don't follow yourself. I had to say that one again. A politician who claims to value family but has an affair. A co-worker who claims to be anti-sweatshop but buys items made under dangerous conditions. Now, the word hypocrisy, according to Google, comes from the Greek word hypocrisy, which means play acting, and it entered the English language around 1200. Now, I want y'all to listen to some of these synonyms associated with the word hypocrisy. And I want you to listen throughout the show and see if some of these behaviors and scenarios and situations and scenes align to some of these very same traits. And I'm going to go down and give y'all some traits from Oxford as well. Here are some for Google. Synonyms of hypocrisy includes can't, disassembling, dissimulation, insincerity, and piousness. Now, specifically from Oxford, we have dishonesty, deception, deceit, double dealing. That's something to pay attention to. Falsity, pretense. Now that we're clear about what I mean when I say hypocrisy, and I have given you some adjectives to kind of set your mind and set the tone and the stage for some of the behaviors we're going to be analyzing today. Okay, I want you to just keep in mind some of those very same synonyms, and I want you to point out the traits that you see that align to these synonyms that are related to hypocrisy or a hypocrite, the actual person. I'm going somewhere with this. Y'all stay with me. Now, I went all the way back to season 1, episode 2. And you know how you just have the shows playing sometimes when you're binge watching or just have it playing in the background if you're off work or the weekend cleaning, just to keep you busy. And I just I just honed in on some things. And one of the main things that I honed in on was the conversation Melody had with Mama Holt when she first felt like or found out Martell was allegedly cheating again. She had that strong woman's intuition. And I thought, wow, she's going to go talk to his mom, because we see later in the season where he's saying, keep our business in the household. So I was like, okay, then she going to talk to mama. It's very serious. And I also thought that was important because you're supposed to be able to speak to your elders for wisdom and clarity and receive guidance. But one of the first instances of experiencing or seeing hypocritical behavior comes in this particular scene. So we're going to talk about when you can't trust the counsel from your elders. That's right. Sometimes our elders, they don't have the necessary wisdom to guide us to make the best decisions. And sometimes that is frustrating because it is so easy to hear an older generation be so critical of younger generations. I would do this, I would have done this, y'all do too much of this or too much of that. But sometimes these elders have to hold themselves accountable and think about what kind of examples have they set for the rest of us. What kind of examples have you set for your daughters by staying in a relationship with an abusive man? I understand times were different. You may not have had certain resources to leave and do what you needed to do, but we all have to handle each other with a bit of grace and mercy, and we can't be too judgmental and too critical. And now, this thing kind of made me mad and it kind of hurt me because again, if you can't turn to your elders, who can you turn to? And that's why I always remember my grandmother teaching me about go to God. Baby, sometimes grandma don't know, but God always knows. And that is something that has really stuck with me. And that is something I can respect. I'd rather you tell me you don't know or you're not sure rather than you give me false advice and I have a certain amount of respect and love for you. Let's take a look at this. Now here you see Melody, like I said, driving over to the Mama Holt's house. And this whole episode is called Respectful Cheating. And you see the question mark. And really my heart went out to Melody. She resonated with a lot of women here because you can see the thoughts, the questions, the pain, just written all over her face. And the eyes really are a window to the soul. And you could just really get a glimpse of the turmoil she was in emotionally, spiritually. And it was caused by a person that's supposed to be your great love, you know? Now, another thing I picked up on in this scene right off the bat, maybe it's because I'm a Libra, is the vibes, okay? The emotional atmosphere and the tone, okay? Now, I'm not talking about like the tone with your words. Of course, I do pick up on that, but I'm talking about just some people would call it the vibe. And your body language really sets the tone and the stage for how a conversation is going to go and how it should be perceived. So one of the things that I saw was how Mama Holt was shook and how she shifted in her seat up, kind of bat her eyes up, put her hands upside her face. And it was giving, oh Lord, here you come again, or here comes this conversation. And I understand if you don't want to get in the middle of your son's relationship, excuse me, y'all, allergies. I can respect that, but I can respect it if you say it. And it really was infuriating because some of her body language suggested that, she wasn't really receiving or understanding Melody's pain. And it was more of, I'm going to have this conversation, get this over with. I got to go and do what I got to do. Let's go and have this scene. And to me, a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law, being as close as they were describing they were, I would have expected a certain amount of tenderness with the way she was handling Melody, especially seeing how vulnerable Melody was in this scene and her coming to her elder for guidance, for support, and really just to be picked up and really to be given some insight on, ma'am, how do I handle your son? This your child. Give me some help. Maybe you understand his psychology. And the mom just kind of had a nonchalant, matter of fact, it is what it is kind of attitude. And mind you, I'm not disrespecting anybody's mom, no disrespect to Miss Marlene, because I don't know that lady. I can only speak to the scene. So I'm only talking to what I see in the scene and the air that she gave off. And again, Melody is extremely emotional. She's hurt. She's trying to hold in. And I feel more pain behind what she's holding in and not saying versus the things she's letting out. Again, the eyes are a window to the soul. So when the mom is just sitting there shifting and nonchalant and giving all this generic advice, I'm just like, wow, some kind of elder you are. And I wrote down a few things in this conversation that stood out to me. One thing is when Melody was asking her opinion on different facets in a relationship and dealing with losing trust, or how hard was it for her to be a single mom. I grew a bit of respect for Melody because I see that she acknowledged Miss Marlene's pain or struggle, and she really wanted her truth and her insight, and it was almost a little bit of a foreshadowing moment of what was coming in the future for Melody. And maybe Melody was trying to test and see if this was going to be her fate, being a single mom. Can she handle it? What is it that I need to do? And so Miss Marlene talked about how challenging it was, but there was also an undertone of I'm a single mom. That was hard. But you married. You got a man. You got help. You can't make that work. And I think sometimes people discount or disregard the feelings of married people, particularly married women. And sometimes people look at you as though, oh, if you're married, you shouldn't be struggling financially. You shouldn't be struggling this way or that way. But the human experience, I mean, the things that we go through as people, nobody is exempt, irregardless of their relationship status. And then there was a sense of, I wouldn't do it, but you should. And I'm talking specifically about when Melody began to ask questions about, would you stay with someone who's cheating or cheating constantly? Would you be able to stay with someone that you couldn't trust? But even in that statement about I wouldn't do it, but that's you. Y'all got to figure that out. It was more, and at least it's the way it came off on screen now. Like I said, I don't know Miss Marlene. I can only go by what I see and what I felt and the impressions that were given. It was, I'm not going to do it. I ain't got to do it. But you got a man. You married. You might have to deal with more than I have to. You got a good man. You got a you got one that come home and help with kids. You got to deal with some. And some people from their generation, they truly think, feel, and believe, at least your man come home and he pay bills and see about the kids. None of us are exempt. You're going to have to deal with some. Ain't nobody perfect. And you don't expect a perfect person to be perfect, but you do expect a person to respect their vows. Okay? Respect who they are with. So that was something that I kind of struggle with in that scene, just a matter of fact, a nonchalantness. So Melody continues to pour her heart out, and a question that she asked her mother-in-law that I wrote down that stood out to me, because again, these things are loaded. And for some people, it's just reality TV. But some of us, it's our reality. Or for some of us, you're looking to learn a lesson to maybe I can avoid, this mistake. Or maybe I can assess my own relationships. And Melody asks, what do you do when you feel in your spirit God is trying to tell you something? And the mom, the only thing she could ask her was, do you trust him? That was a pivotal moment in that scene for me as well, because she just told you what all women understand is either God speaking to you through the Holy Spirit or that intuition, that tingling in the pit of your stomach, that nagging thought. And sometimes when guys do something or when ladies do things, you might not say anything right away. You just file it away. It's in a little file folder. It's a wait a minute, something ain't right file folder in your mind. And you kind of put it in there. You kind of log your evidence or you log events or incidents until everything starts to add up and align. So I know the mom, being an elder, she's had some experience with it. But the only thing she said was, do you trust him? And that really got next to me, because I know that's your son. Nobody's asking you to go against your son. But right is right and wrong is wrong. You asking her, do you trust him? But he already has a reputation. Or so it is suggested on the show. Or so he said, actually. He admitted to in the scene before at the car wash. So let's not make a person feel like they're crazy for thinking what they're thinking, or having the type of quandaries that she's having, or the internal battles or conflicts that she's having, because that seed of doubt has come from somewhere. It came from a real fruit. It came from a real tree, okay, that has been planted. So I also feel like you telling her to ignore herself, ignore that word from God, ignore your intuition, just focus on your husband. So just turn a blind eye. But she's telling you, I can't turn that spirit off. Like, what do you think? What do I do? I'm asking you as an elder. I'm talking to you, woman to woman. And just being honest, to a certain extent, Miss Marlene can't keep it real. And I hate to say it, but single parents, single mothers, I can speak from it because I'm from a single parent home. The mothers, y'all gonna ride with y'all sons. Y'all can get mad, cuss me out in the comments. I'm gonna take it. Y'all are gonna ride with y'all sons, even if they are wrong, especially if they are wrong. It's two left shoes, and be hard on the daughters. I kid you not. And that may be why that scene is so triggering for me, because you know your son is wrong as two left shoes. You know she's probably the best thing that has ever happened to him. Not to discount who he is and his accomplishments, but you know, based on some things we done seen on this show, Melody brought some things out of him that you, the mama, couldn't even bring out of him. Let's just go and say it. She created or helped create or curate a lifestyle that you weren't even able to give. Have I lied yet, y'all? Have I lied yet? Okay. Call me Raheem Devon tonight because I'm about to serve you up. I'm about to serve some people up tonight. Okay. Holding these people up when they are wrong, not holding people accountable. No, you ain't got to put your son down. You don't. But you can still relate to her woman to woman. And one way you could have related to her woman to woman, and being a woman that's concerned about her mental health and her emotional well-being, is time she told you she feel like God is trying to tell her something. She's very vulnerable in that moment. You could have said, I don't want to get in the middle of you and my son because I love both of y'all. But what I can do is hold your hand. We can sit here in silence and cry. Sometimes that's all a person needs. Or you could have said, look, can I pray over y'all? That's what I feel like Melody Mama would have did. Can I just pray with you? Can I just hold your hand and pray with you? Can I just hug you and hold on to you? That's something you could have did as an elder, as a woman that's supposed to be able to provide wisdom, clarity, guidance. And there wouldn't have been any kind of slight or slander towards your son for you to hold her hand, pray with her, hug her. But you you gave the impression in this scene that you kind of didn't want to be bothered with the conversation, and you was ready to get to the racetrack. But the thing about it is, everybody's profiting off Melody's pain, and she's not supposed to be the one to experience or talk about the pain. She got to just shut up and suck it up. That was essentially what she told her in this particular scene. You got to just keep going and keep your head up and stay strong, because you got to think about them kids. You got those babies. Well, she probably is thinking about her babies, which is why she's hurt, because she don't want to lose her family. And that response there was so generic. That was so generic. Keep your head up and keep going. But what about when your torturer has you in so much pain you can barely lift your head? Your heart is in so much pain. Well, come on now. You talking about lift your head up and keep going. Going where? I feel like I'm in hell right now. Which way am I going to go dealing with your damn son? Lift my head up how? Now that right there, that pissed me off the most, because you're not talking to a Joe on the street. You are talking to your daughter-in-law. Somebody you claim you close to. And when you say just pick your head up and keep going, what you mean? Turn a blind eye? Just play dumb and crazy so that everybody else around me is comfortable, but I can't vent and ask for help until I can find a way to get out of this? Child, please. People ain't right. I love and respect our elders, but some of y'all elders, y'all ain't right. Y'all give the worst advice. Y'all give advice to keep people in poverty, in abusive relationships. Do better. Melody then asks the tough question, the big question. So, what would be your advice in terms of me having trust issues? Okay. And she's holding back tears as she had, and you can see emotion takes over her. when she asked her, what is your advice? What do I do? Help me. In her nonchalant, matter of a fact way, she pretty much, Miss Marlene, pretty much tell her, men gonna be men. They been that way all of their days, and whatever they can do, they gonna do it. Then she continues with this line: you deal with it or you let it go. She just don't know. Years to come, God is gonna give her the strength to let go. But how many times have you sat with an older lady, an older auntie, a grandma, or just somebody you knew at work that was older and you needed advice? And that's the only kind of advice they could give you. Men gonna be men. The hypocrisy. When do we hold men to high standards? That's like when people say, hey, they just sowing their oats. They just sowing their raw oats. But you have standards for women to maintain their purity or to not be engaged in behavior that's hoish. Or well, men can do it, but women be a hoe. Well, who they doing it with? If a woman ain't doing nothing. You see what I'm saying? Why aren't the standards the same? You are susceptible to the same physical and spiritual diseases. So why don't we have standards for young men and young boys? Why is all of the weight and the burden of morality rested on the shoulders of women? Why do the mothers, particularly single mothers of boys, uphold their foolishness and just have the idea of, well, men gonna be men and boys gonna be boys? Not all single mothers. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying some that I've seen and the one that's on this screen. And then she kind of, talks with a little bit of a smirk, like it's just jovial, boys gonna be boys, men gonna be men. They do whatever they feel. Well, that's right. But we teach our children, okay, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You can choose your own actions, but you don't get to choose that consequence. So why do we deviate from that when they are grown, when men are grown? But girls, teens, and women are still held to a higher standard. Make it make sense. If they're supposed to be the leader, if you are the leader and supposed to be the head of the household, you got to lead in all your ways. And that includes in your behavior, your decisions that you make. You have to consider other people. But Miss Marlene, she hit it right on the head. You deal with it or you let it go. I hope she knows she planted a seed, baby. Now, like I said, hindsight is 2020. So 2024, Melody definitely decided to let it go. Prior to then, I'm just speaking to now. But that, to me, that was something else. Some kind of advice from an elder. I don't know. What y'all think? What am I missing on that, or am I doing too much? Now, let's head on over to season 5, episode 2. And I feel like in this scene between Mama Holt and Melody, you see two women, two mothers, really just sitting down and having a dialogue where Melody introduces or reintroduces some ideas or some words or statements and actions that Mama Holt engaged in that really offended her, that led her to blocking Mama Holt. And I think she said they hadn't spoken close to a year. So it was nice to see them sit down as ladies at brunch and really discuss their feelings and their emotions and just how they felt. And you really get to see how divorce impacts everybody. It doesn't just take a toll on the husband and wife, it's the children and all of the family. And it's really hurtful because it's an unwinding of one. Like, you spend a lot of your time becoming one and blending your families and creating one family. So you really get to see the fallout of that. But in this particular segment, I do feel like there was some gaslighting. Mama Holt did do a little bit of gaslighting. Of course, we are focused on hypocrisy, but I feel like gaslighting is a facet of hypocrisy. And particularly, I just want to focus on it again. I'm not coming for a single mother. I come from a single parent household, hard working mama, put me through school and beyond. But on this part, I feel like the emphasis or the message falls on, when a single mom criticizes a marriage, particularly the wife. Okay, now y'all gonna get mad in the comments, but it is what it is. And I feel as though Mama Holt, by her own account, she's been a single parent always. That's what she said at the table. So, your perspective and from your vantage point, you may feel that it's normal to struggle and have to work hard and go stand up on a job 8, 12, 16 hours and come home and give it all to the kids and do that. You may feel as though it's normal. But Melody, as a married woman, she chose or thought she chose a partner to where they could share that experience, share the load. That's what a marriage is. Sharing the experience, sharing the load, sharing the finances, sharing the struggle, being in it together. So you coming across as though you expected her to just do it all, especially after having children. And, they had quite a few children closer in age. Yeah, that is when you should be able to lean in and lean on your partner. Now, I am not a mother, but I have enough sense and enough wherewithal to know having children takes a toll on your body. And I hate when women tell other women, well, girl, I worked all the way up to my ninth month. I worked all the way up to this trimester. Well, that's you. You don't know somebody else's body. You don't know what's going on with them. People should have the liberty and the freedom to say when is when, especially if you're in a marriage and you're supposed to have a partner. You should be able to cater to each other. So yeah, from Mama Holt's perspective, yeah, it probably did feel like Melody was leaning on him and calling on him and being lazy in her eyes. But really, that's what a marriage is. It's give and take. If you can't lean on your husband, who else can you lean on? Outside of God, he should be the number one person that you can call on, call for help, and call for strength. And most often, men have spoke out about women being too strong and too independent. So I thought you wanted your woman to lean on you and pull strength and encouragement from you. But that's not something she would understand because, as she said, she's always been a single mother. She's always struggled. And that stood out to me because in previous seasons, when Maurice, and Marceau was sitting on the patio and they were having a guys discussion about Tisha saying she felt like a married single mother, Martell mentioned that he could see that. He would agree with that. And he gave the example of how his mom was with the guy for 15 years and yeah, he worked, but he didn't spend any time with the children. So that kind of makes me feel like, again, when she's saying she's always been a single parent, she's always struggled. I'm like, well, yeah, you used to struggle, love. You're not used to seeing or having a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship where a man is hands-on with his wife and children, especially in a time of need after giving birth to children. That does not make you lazy. But let me get into it. So the scene also, and again, this is season 5, episode 2. Mars Say It Ain't So. It introduces the text messages that Melody sent mom before she blocked her. And here's what it says. It basically sums up everything we talk about here tonight. Your son is a liar. You have upheld Martell for a very long time and not made him take responsibility since day one. I've been nothing but good to you and fair when it came to you. Y'all enjoy and do what y'all do. Don't text back because I'm blocking you too. Pow, pow, pow. Shots fired. One thing about that male, baby, she don't mince words. When she has her mind made up, it is what it is, and she gonna express herself, take it or leave it. I love it. This text message sums up what we've been saying. Like, as a mom, it's okay to love your child and protect your child and be on your child's side. But when your child is wrong, your child is wrong. Now, here you sitting up in this woman's face, or sitting up in another episode of Flashback talking about how lazy she is. And when them kids, and it's a flashback, when them kids was real small, and you used to just work and work and work and do, I was like, and dang, she gonna kill my son. She gonna kill my boy. He do so damn much. Well, ain't that's what a man supposed to do? Work, work and grind, work and provide and protect. I mean, what you want her to do if she having the children, running the business, helping getting the business started? Because as we learned, she was the one with the builder's license. And if the business could run without her, why did it have to be dissolved? Okay, if it had to be dissolved because the marriage was dissolved, why wasn't it up and running and operating without lawsuits that we see now in 2024 if she was so lazy and didn't do so much? You see what I'm saying? Come on now. Let's not drag it on. That's what a son, that's what a father and a husband does, but you possibly wouldn't know about that. And don't just try to discount what she brought to the marriage just to protect your son's image. And then my thing is this, maybe his ass wasn't doing enough. Maybe she should have put some more on him and should have been more needy. So he could have kept his ass at home and out from over there with coleslaw. She couldn't have been putting too damn much on him. He had time to sneak and get his freak on. Come on now. Come on, Mama Holt. Come on now. She ain't put that much on his ass. That's what I'm talking about. Women that uphold their sons and they know they dead wrong and make excuses for what their sons do. Now, her and Mel did come to an amicable agreement and, all of that. But I'm just talking about the mentality of certain generations and the hypocrisy we see in the show and that you can see in so many different contexts between friendships or alleged sisterhood, dynamics between older generations, dynamics between mother and son. You just see the foolishness and the gaslighting. So how are you saying she's lazy when they have a multi-million-dollar business and now she needs help from a husband after having these children? Come on, Miss Ho, you don't even believe that yourself, you know. And the scene carries on. It comes back from the flashback to present day where her and Mel are sitting at the table having a nice brunch. And Mama Holt double downs on what she's saying. I guess if I was having children like that, I would be a little lazy too. And I'm still trying to figure out what makes Melody lazy. What do you mean she's lazy? Because she calls on her husband for help? That that makes her lazy? Well, what do you call a man that's calling on another woman for sex and affection when he can get it at home? You got a wife begging you to begging you to receive the love she's trying to give at home, begging you to stay at home. Come on now, let's not act like we don't know what the root of the problem is. And so what I take from that saying, you got a little lazy. I guess if I was having not children, cheering, if I was having cheering like that many back to back, and you got comfortable, you got too comfortable, he spoiled you. You have to look at the undertone of what people are saying. What do they really mean? That double-mindedness, that double intention. Okay, subliminal meaning. To me, that says that's why he cheated. You weren't doing this. You weren't doing that. He wasn't satisfied. He was overworked. You spoiled. He got somebody else that can meet his needs. That's why he cheated. That's what the undertone is saying. That's the underlying message. Am I missing something? Y'all tell me if I'm wrong. Please tell me. But that's what I get from that. And I also say, think about what Melody says. You put the batteries in the back, Martell. Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? Suggesting that she's spoiled, she lazy, she ain't doing what she's supposed to do, she's not satisfying him. Y'all know exactly who that sounds like. She dead wrong. One question I do want to ask, you see here on the screen. Mama Holt, is Mel making the children by herself? Now you keep referencing how many children she have, and if I was having that many cheering, you know, if I was having that many cheering, I guess I'd be a little lazy too. Well, is she having the children by herself? Is she Holy Mary? Is she Mother Mary? No, she got some help. She has some help making them, so you gotta have help taking care of them. Something you might not understand from a man. You might have had Big Mama there to help, but after words of Martell, the stepdad or boyfriend you had didn't spend time with him. He might have worked, but didn't take up time with him. So that might be a foreign concept to you, with all due respect. And another question I have, or a little comment, just a little something to put on y'all mind. Have y'all encountered people or older generations, or just people in general, that have the idea or the air or the suggestiveness that says just because they struggled alone, you gotta struggle. Just because things were hard for them, they just expect it to be hard for you. So I feel like, she kind of hints at that. She kind of hints at that. Well, things were hard for me. What you think is gonna be for you? And I also feel like some of her tone and attitude and mentality, as much as I feel like she loves Melody, she kind of has a mindset of, well, you had a man at home to do. What you complaining about? What's your problem? I did it alone. You never mind that you were in your own hell created by the person you love. Never mind they cheated, could have brought home diseases. The other woman calling, getting on your nerve. You can't have peace, embarrassing you all across town. Never mind those things. You got a man that help you with kids. Think about them people. Think about those type of people. And I think you need to be aware, me too, of those type of people that feel like just because things were hard or difficult or challenging for them, you shouldn't have it easy either. You should go through something too. What do you expect? Now, at some point, things have to change. We have to break the cycle, break the mold, and figure out what's best. Okay, what can be the best catalyst for change? Come on now, lady. Just because you struggled along, allegedly, with your two, doesn't mean that she was supposed to have to struggle. That doesn't mean go to work, run a business, come home, cook, take care of his needs, engage in intercourse with your husband. Just burn yourself down to the ground where you can't even take care of yourself, because then it would have been, well, you let yourself go. You got fat. You didn't comb your hair. You wasn't running. You was too busy trying to be a homemaker. You weren't running the business. It's going to always be something for y'all to nitpick about. Nothing that she does is good enough because you're not happy with yourself. And I feel like Melody represents a lot of things that they couldn't accomplish. And I feel as though, as much as Mama Holt, I feel like she truly loves Melody. She does. But there's a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of enviousness there. A little bit of envy, excuse me. Some little jealousy and a little bit of envy. Possibly a little bit of strife and resentment because she had a husband, and she did not. Call me crazy, but that's what I see. It's just a tad bit of jealousy. It is. But again, she got your son to do things you couldn't. Melody goes on and asks, how can I be lazy? I've never been lazy. Give me an example. Did he just say he had an old sorry wife, didn't do anything? I'm paraphrasing. Didn't do anything, just laid up, Again, all Miss Holt could go to was, you laid around, called on him when you had those children. But let me ask you this. If Melody is or was lazy, how could she create multiple multi-million-dollar businesses from scratch after going through a divorce, losing it all. How? How can you be a multi-millionaire and you're lazy? You can be efficient, but lazy? Lazy? Come on now, that girl got too much class. She might have been tired or burnt out. What about postpartum? Maybe she was going through postpartum. And another thing, Mama Holt there talking about, yeah, he had you spoiled. You were spoiled. You was. You was spoiled. Spoiled? Well, if she was spoiled, it's by her husband. It wasn't by Joe in the streets. She wasn't sneaking out in the streets there, not that we know about. She was getting it at home like she was supposed to be. A man is supposed to cleave to his wife and she's supposed to cleave to him once they're married. They should spoil each other, but again, you don't know anything about a marriage. You don't know what it's like to be one and to have a partner to depend on. Come on now, you can't call the girl spoiled. By a husband, she should be spoiled by a husband. A woman should be catered to by her husband. Her body is his sanctuary. Her womb gives birth to his legacy. You know, you pray over your husband, you cover him, you take care of him when he's sick. That's a woman worth spoiling. What do you mean? And her intelligence and talent contributed to the family business, which keeps you living comfortably. Come on now. I kind of got a hard time with people that have never been married that want to sit back and criticize what goes on in a marriage. I've never been married, and I try to look at examples and take examples and use logic and reasoning to make understanding of or make sense of what I'm saying. But I feel like you want to criticize and nitpick and justify just so that your son looks good. But you talking about a wife, you telling a wife and a mother she's spoiled. Most men take pride in their wives or saying that their wives, she's a little spoiled. That's right, because she come to Big Daddy. He the source. She going to him. If it's a problem, she go to God and go to him. And a lot of men, grown men, they take pride in that. Their woman coming to them to resolve issues, or at least discussing those things with them. But she wouldn't know nothing about that. To her, that looks spoiled. And for her to use that word spoiled, so you have to pay attention to the language that people use and the context in which they use it. Now, you claim you love her. She's a good girl. She said out of her own mouth, you're a good girl. You're the mother of my grandchildren. Why would you use the word spoiled? That's another hint at how you truly feel. You're a little bit jealous. You're a little jealous that you had to work hard and struggle with yours. And here she is, has a man that has help. But again, Tisha really spoke about being a married single parent. Get another word, ma'am. Later in the scene, Mama Holt is meeting with Martell. I guess she was there for the grandparents, for the for the grandkids. And she sits down with Martell and she talks to him and lets him know, that her and Melody finally had a conversation and they went to brunch and he's asking, was it good? She's like, yeah, it's good. I don't know what he was expecting. She's at calm. Of course, it went well. I'm sure she would have came in a lot more spicy than that. And one thing that kind of stood out to me was Mama Holt did speak positively about her conversation with Melody and how she, would always be a girl, always be her daughter-in-law. And I appreciate that. And I respected that. That was big of her to say. But I do still feel like elements of her real mentality it slips through, and just how ride or die for her son she is, whether he right, wrong, indifferent, she's going to stick beside him as well, which is fine. You have the right to do that. But hey, we discussing behaviors to look out for. Okay. So anyway, she talks about, She had me unblocked, but she unblocked me, and he couldn't wait to give his 2 cents about that. But he seemed genuinely happy that they talked, and I feel like, oh, okay, he thinking if she talking to Mama Holt, he might be able to work his way on back home. That's just my thoughts. But anyways, she makes the statement, so I know how to overlook things. Again, paying attention to people's words, because I think about when I've overlooked things people have said and situations have transpired to where all things have just fallen apart. Sometimes my mind will go back on something that they said that I should have taken heed to. So when people reveal who they are, believe them the first time. So when she says, I know how to look over things. She says what she means, but some of her words are pretty loaded. Some of her statements are loaded. So when she said that, and the kind of like the air and the attitude that I picked up on when she's in front of Martell, she has to cater. It felt like she has to cater to his ego and attitude, and also, it was a little suggestiveness with it. I know how to look over things, almost like she should have done. And again, it goes back to that idea of, I went through hard times, I struggle. Why you think you don't have to go through something? Why you think you too good to struggle? You think stuff gonna be easy for you all the time? I may be reading too much into it, but I don't think so, because people say things and they throw them out there to see if you gonna catch it and you gonna bite. Well, baby, you put the bait out there. Call me the bass, big bass biting, okay? What you want her to do? Overlook the cheating and the constant lying? What do you mean overlook things? Please, she overlooked it for years, tried to work through and forgive. So, like I said, I believe she truly loves Melody, but it's a bit of shadiness and pettiness there. And it all ties in with hypocrisy and gaslighting, and just to me, comes off that you have just a little bit of jealousy. She don't have room to complain. At least she had a man to help. She could have overlooked some stuff. But they love to call Mel bougie and doing too much. And I also paid attention to that phrase that she said quite a few times in this scene. That's what a woman is all about. That's what a woman. That's what a woman is all about. You got to grow up. And become a woman. Ma'am. Don't nobody need you hinting at how somebody needs to grow up and become a woman. We all have our own mothers. You should have been hinting at your son how he needs to grow up and be a man and take accountability and just ask for forgiveness for what he did and truly mean it and be humble in it. Okay? And that makes me wonder, what's your definition of a woman, Mama Holt? What's your definition of a woman? And again, that kind of goes back to that Barbara the Builder, pick me sure, I hate to say it, mentality of thinking a woman is supposed to struggle. If you got love, it's going to have some struggle in it, or, hard times is just a part of life. To a certain extent, yes, but some things don't have to be. Some people complicate people's lives and put them through unnecessary turmoil until you set the tone, set the standard, and set the boundary, or just divorce them altogether. So when she kept saying, you got to grow up, you got to become a woman, and hitting that overlooking things, yeah, she was mentioning on the surface level Melody blocking her, and yes, she had feelings, and she understands her feelings as a woman and her pain and having to step away from things. Yes, on the surface, that's what she meant. But when you kind of dig deeper into what people are saying and the true meaning behind their message, it really makes you sit and ponder, and it really helps me see that how she associates pain and struggle with just part of womanhood and being a mother. You want somebody else on the struggle bus with you and having a hard time, and you just turning your head or just dealing with it. I don't have to just deal with anything. Not anything that's going to kill me spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. I don't. you have the right to say no. God gives us all free will. So, she can watch Slinging Around, You Gotta Grow Up and Become a Woman. Or not, she is an elder. In closing, I just want to share a few final thoughts, just a little food for thought as it relates to the hypocrisy of love and marriage, Huntsville Part 1. First of all, I hope that this video and my perspective, or this audio podcast rather, will reach multiple generations, and it will start some much needed dialogue down in the comment section across generations. Elders, you're still needed. Your wisdom is needed, but let your wisdom come from a place of grace. Come from a place of mercy, come from a place of genuinely wanting a person to do better and have healing. If you couldn't see some things or elements of progress manifest within your generation, your lifetime, you should have a wantingness to see good things come to fruition in the next generation. And that's the kind of wisdom that needs to be imparted. Not toxic wisdom, not things that that held you captive, your mama, your great grandmother, mean as well, captive, and have really just formed strongholds in our families and in our communities. We have to stop with the toxic wisdom, which is not wisdom. I call it a form of fool's gold mentally. And I also hope younger generations take heed to the warnings of our elders. And I hope that there can be some kind of coming together in oneness. Almost like how you used to could go to grandma and just bear out your soul, tell your secrets, and they would hold that safe. They would pray over you, even if they didn't have the answers. And I just wish that the way that the world is today, we could get that back instead of giving advice and wisdom from a state of spite, from a state of envy, or thinking, oh, well, my life was hard. What make you think you're going to have it harder? Each generation should want the next generation to do better, to have healing, to have a sense of wholeness. That's the perspective that I hope people take away from my commentary today. And I hope it sparks some type of conversation in the comment section amongst generations about how to heal, how to come to each other for support, how to hold each other's secrets safe, how to pray over each other again, and not just give, like I said, toxic wisdom, a form of fool's gold mentally. The next thing I want people to take away and to start a discussion with in the comment section, I don't want there to be so much strife and distance between single mothers and married mothers. You get what I'm saying? Even if you're from the same generation, or there may be a difference. One can't look down on the other. And if you're you had to be a single mother, you can't hold strife and envy in your heart when a married mother is suffering or going through things, or says she needs help, or says she feels like a married single mother, because we all have a plight. We all have our cross to bear. But if we as women can't even come together and have honest conversation and have an honest dialogue, and you at least acknowledge a person's pain without discounting their experience, then what are we doing? We're doing something wrong. Totally wrong. A person shouldn't have to be gaslighted when they're telling you their truth, their pain. And for a woman to call another woman lazy because she depends on her husband for support during a time when you're very vulnerable as a woman. And also, now we have more conversations in the world about postpartum. We need other generations to be honest about that, to speak about it's okay for a woman not to be strong all the time, not to be, as they would say in that Tyler Perry movie, perfect Patty. Women have to stop holding each other to standards of being perfect Patty. You'll make a person have a mental breakdown. There has to be room to be human. You have some cultures when a mother gives birth, the mom or stepmom come over, they help fill in, take care of the running of the house, feeding everybody, bringing the mother food, because people understand the power of a woman, the power of a woman having enough strength to love and nurture at her full capacity. So what's wrong with having a sense of community, pour into somebody who's going to give that love and all right back, right back? There's just so much division in the world, and I can just go on for days and break these things down to microscopic levels, but I at least wanted to start here and start a conversation with basically how we treat each other and how we view each other and how we view the human experience. Like, do you have the capacity to step outside of seeing things from your own lenses? Can you take on somebody else's perspective? Because what you think is easy for another person, it may not be. So what's wrong with helping someone or pouring into somebody? I don't know, y'all. Am I too far off? Or y'all get what I'm putting down? Or y'all get what I'm putting down? It just needs to be more peace in the world, and particularly amongst women. So let's get in the chat. Let's have some conversations. Let's have some open dialogue, because as I went back through these episodes, and I'm older now, and I have a different perspective. I've gone through some things, and it really just made me sit and think and really just want to pull certain lessons from some of these shows beyond, all the superficial things that people talk about, or just some of the things you see on the surface. It's something deeper there, and it's something deeper that definitely impacts relationships between women. There's something deeper in these things that impacts, our African American community, particularly between the relationships between the African American women, married and single women, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. Y'all get in the comments. Let's start some dialogue here. Let's start some adult conversations, and y'all tell me what you think. And while you guys may be commenting below, I just want to get back on and give my own testimony. I'm going to try to speak from my perspective. It's not my goal to offend anybody. I think we've done some healing and have boundaries as a family to where I can speak openly about why this topic and some of these things were so, they registered so much with me, and why they were so impactful as I work on journaling and being more reflective at home. In certain scenes that we discussed tonight, I thought about my mom, and I thought about, her as a single parent. And I thought about my dad. Like I said, we've had some healing. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. So, I'm going to tell it from my perspective. Forgive me if your feelings hurt, but hey, let me tell the truth from my perspective. I can think about, my mom as a single parent working hard to do what she needs to do for the three of us. We had the same mom, same father. And I can remember, I'm the oldest. But I can remember, my brothers and them still expecting my father to come. At that time, I already knew, if he said he was coming, he wasn't. If it was a surprise. But they held on to their faith. If he said he was coming to pick you up for the weekend, he's coming. And I can remember distinctly, my brothers were mad. I'm like, what y'all waiting on? He ain't coming anyways. And they were like, yes, he is. Yes, Dad is. And they went outside and they got their suitcase. They were mad. They were sitting on their suitcase and they're just like, I'm not coming back in till Dad come. And, my mom, I could tell she was kind of hurt and kind of in a place of wanting to tell them, get your butt back in the house. But I could tell that she could sense, let me just, back off. And I just thought, I ain't sitting out there. Y'all stupid. And, I'm thinking that from a child's perspective. And they sat out there for quite some time, and he never did show up. I think he eventually called hours later, the day of, to say that he wasn't going to come. And I can remember when my father would do those things, and I would, tell my grandmother, why I didn't call him dad, why I called him by his first name, and, or how I felt about him standing us up or breaking his promise and breaking his word. And as much as my grandmother, his mom on his side now, loved us, I knew she loved me. She did. It's no doubt about it. As much as she loved me, it was always an excuse for my father. It was always an excuse for his negative behavior. Everybody else is wrong except for him. Now, she might have talked to him in private or pulled him aside, but from my vantage point as a child, it's no point in saying anything about what he does or what he didn't do, because in the end, he's always right. Now, like I said, I do believe there were times when grandma pulled him aside. You could tell when grandma lights some fire into you, and it's no doubt about that she loved us. But sometimes I understand where the internet is coming from when they talk about women are male identified. They're too male identified, So I just wanted to share that little bit of information as to why I kind of view these episodes and some of these interactions the way that I did. Thank you all for tuning in to School and Life. I think, because baby, when life teaches you a lesson, you better be taking note. Sometimes it's gonna throw you a curveball, and I sure hope you can swing or you know how to duck. Okay, you have tuned in with When a Libra Speaks. It means so much to have your support as a little old country girl and a little old small podcast channel. Okay, y'all make sure y'all tune in for the second part of the hypocrisy of love and marriage Huntsville. We're going to talk about some of these interactions with big old rusty foot Marceau, and I'm saying it because I'm looking at this picture on this screen, but I still love Marceau most of the time. We're going to look at some of his interactions with his wife in previous episodes, and we're also going to look at some of his interactions when he and Martell fell out, and we're going to see some elements of hypocrisy, and we're going to see some flat out lies. Okay, so we won't be gossiping, but we will be taking note. We'll be discussing. We'll be learning, because as we watch these relationships on TV, we can perfect our own in real life. This has been School and Life, I think, with When a Libra Speaks. Y'all take care of yourself and each other. Until next time, I holla.